Okay, great. So we're going to be doing this technique, as I mentioned, in very active labor, transition, close to pushing. The baby is low, the baby's descending, and what's going to feel nice for this mom is to help relieve some of the pressure that's really building up in the bottom. So I'm going to start with this sacral pressure that we were talking about before, and I'm going to slowly walk my thumbs down her back, and I'm going to land in between the sits bones. How does that feel? Good? Okay. So I really want to end up, my landing point in the end is on this plane. It's on the plane of her seat. And I want to feel those sits bones on the outer edge of my thumbs. And so the perineal tissue is in the middle. And that's really where I'm helping to soften and release tension. Sometimes what'll happen is you'll actually feel that one side is tighter or harder. You happen to be pretty even. Both sides don't feel particularly tight. But sometimes you'll feel that on a mom, like you'll get under here and you'll feel how like one side is really like easy to get into and the other one's like a little bit harder, a little bit tighter. So you can hang out there a little bit longer, you know, or when you rotate back and forth, you can go a little bit deeper on that side. And what I'll do is I'll kind of slowly alternate up and down this area, helping to loosen and soften the tissue around the perineum and in between the sits bones. I can just lean in, and that can feel nice. I can use my thumbs almost like hooks, where I'm going in, but I'm also pressing out, and that can feel nice sometimes. And mostly I'm just going to be like walking back and forth like this, spending a little bit longer on the side that's a little bit tighter. And then I can segue into a shaking of the hips to continue to release tension. I can come back to the sacral pressure, start again. But at this point, it's like almost like the pressure has moved beyond here. And it's really coming down, and the baby's very close to, you know, being born. What did I want to say? So the one situation in which we're using this is that like transition, baby's really, really low, and we're helping to relieve pressure and tension in here. The other is, I'm going to have Shira, will you scooch your body back and bring your forearms down onto the floor. So I was mentioning before that we could use this earlier on if we're wanting to encourage the baby to back out. If the positioning doesn't seem to be ideal, we can also, while someone is in this open knee, open chest position, and this is the angle for the baby to kind of get jiggled loose. So sometimes we can just do shaking, but sometimes it feels really good to follow that path down and end up in that space here, helping to soften and relax that, you know, sort of pelvic floor tissue. And while they're in this position, because it's a pleasurable sensation for people a lot of the times to focus on feeling that while they're in this very uncomfortable position for like a half an hour, which is kind of how long you want to spend in this position in order for it to have the effect of helping the baby disengage, and then you can try and re-engage in a better position. So the shaking and this, you know, sits bones pressure. It's ideal to have some kind of clothing on, so you can do this obviously over underwear. You can do this if they are bare-bottomed. I'll just take their gown or a bed sheet and do it over that, because you really are going to be, it's essentially sits bones, perineal tissue, and the anus, right? So we obviously want to be in that spot in the middle. So you'll practice and you'll see how it feels for yourself. But generally this is with someone who's comfortable enough to have their butt in the air, or their, butt sticking out. This is when you're going to be working with someone. They're either so in labor or they're so willing to do whatever they need to do for their baby to reposition or to have things go smoothly, that you can, safe board them by starting at the sacrum and then coming down. But usually someone who's willing to do this will enjoy that kind of opening in between the sits bones area kind of pressure. So thank you. All right, that's it.